going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. So last video you guys saw, we got the CRX running, got it up to temp, burped it, took it out for its first little street pull, made boost in first and second gear, started braking up halfway through second gear. So long story short, this thing just needs to be tuned. I have a laptop, but my dog chewed up the charger 3 weeks ago, so until I get a new charger in, I am laptopless. So my buddy is gonna bring his over on Friday, and then we're gonna start cracking into this girl. But until then, I figured better get cracking on some of this body work. So as you guys can see, I've started laying down some Bondo. I'll walk around the car really quick and I'll just show you guys what needs to be done. So there's a pretty good sized dent there, like someone had backed into it or something. There's a couple little dings right here. I'm gonna get this one and this one. And then after those two, I'm gonna go ahead and leave that fender alone. There's really nothing on the door that I need to get. That's just kind of rusted through. But the side of this car is, fairly clean. There's a good little dent right there that we'll go ahead and take care of. I think I can heat the metal up and push it out from the inside. If not, then we'll throw a little Bondo there just to clean it up a little bit. That cancer that we had right there, I went ahead and welded it in, as you guys have already seen. So we rust treated it and then just threw some Bondo on it and we'll shape that. Back bumper just needs to be sanded down. Nothing really bad with that. Same with this side of the car. This rear quarter panel is fairly straight. Everything just needs to be sanded down. It looks like someone punched that little spot right there, and then there's a little karate chop dent right there. But other than that, this thing is fairly straight. So gonna get started on the body work on this thing, but instead of boring you guys with a long time lapse of me sanding and priming and sanding and priming, I'm gonna throw together a little video of my previous builds that I've had in the past. So this is, the cars that got me started, that kind of ignited the fire that I have for these, Hondas, these JDM cars. And I've wanted to make this video for a while. I just wasn't sure how to do it, but I feel like this is a good time to go ahead and throw together a cool little collage of all my old cars. I'll try my best to do it in chronological order. So first to where I am now, which obviously is the Integra, the EK9, and the EF8 CRX. So I think it'll be a pretty cool video. I think it'll be exciting for those of you guys who don't know me personally and haven't been around to see everything that I've done. It'll give you a good idea of the cars I've owned, the things that I've built, and so on and so forth. So hopefully this is something that's exciting for you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and quit talking because I know a lot of my video is just me pointing the camera at myself talking about what I did. So yeah, let's get into it, and I hope you guys like this video. So the first car we're gonna start off with was my 1995 Honda Civic. It was a little EX, chassis code was EJ1, I believe. Had a little D16 Z6 single overhead cam VTEC engine in it, and we had actually swapped it in. Coilovers, full exhaust. It was a cool little car. I really did enjoy it. I was pulling out of my mom's driveway one day, and some lady she basically cut off the car that I could see coming, so I thought I'd had enough time to pull out, but she had cut that car off and just gunned it and smashed right into the side of my Civic. I was heartbroken, but my brother told me it was fixable, so we had ended up cutting the quarter panel off, and I drove out to Oregon City, Oregon in this Civic actually, and I had cut the quarter panel off of another Civic, which was, I believe it was white. We cut the quarter panel off of another Civic and basically loaded it up, drove it all the way to my brother's house, and from there me and him chopped that up and started basically doing what we could, just kind of fabbing this quarter panel section back onto my car, grafting it back onto my car. We were not body men, but surprisingly enough, it sealed. There was no water leakage or anything like that. So at that point, I was like, hey, don't care. I just wanted my car back, and I was super excited just to have it back and being straight again. So it was quite an experience. I definitely wouldn't do it again. If it happened again, I would just sell the car and, you know, scrap it, start over, find a new shell. But it was, you know, a fun learning experience. I sold this car for $1,700. I paid $1,000 for it, sold it for $17. I really didn't do a whole lot to it. The engine and stuff like that was already there. I think I did brakes and I put the wheels on it. And honestly, I bought the wheels from my buddy Rodrigo, so I sold it for $1,700 and bought the wheels off my buddy for $350. So I really only made like $1,400. Second car this is a good one. It's a 1991 Honda Accord. It's a CB7. It had an F22 A1 in it that me and my cousin drove like 3.5 hours to go pick up. We pulled it out of a Prelude. And this car was actually given to me by my stepdad. It was a 5-speed car. It had a full exhaust on it with a little fart cannon that you can see there at the bottom. It actually sounded really good. I loved this car. I really liked the body style. One of my buddies, or a couple of my buddies, gave me shit because, you know, they aren't the best looking cars and they weren't really sought after, but I really thought that the front end looked really good. I ended up cutting the springs on it, so it had stock struts and then coilover sleeves. That's what it was. I didn't cut the springs. So stock struts with coilover springs, and it rode like garbage. It rode like straight trash, but I thought that I was hot shit. I got some 15-inch Honda Integra Type R wheels, the 4x114, the 96 spec wheels, 15-inch wheel. I got those from my buddy Corey Thompson, and I threw those on the car and just fell in love with it. Sadly, I rear-ended a truck that did like a little California stop. He was about to merge onto the highway. He hit his gas and then decided not to go and hit his brakes, and then I hit my brakes, and I had all-weather tires on this at the time. They were studded snow tires, and long story short, I slid into the back of him and I broke my driver's side headlight, dented my hood a little bit. But that car actually was caught on fire. I had sold it to my cousin Jimmy, I don't know, for like $800, $1,000, somewhere around there. He had it for like a month, and then the car developed a rod knock and he broke down in a little neighborhood. He left the car there, and some kids had broken into it, stole any parts that were into it, and caught it on fire. So that brings us to the next vehicle. And I did have a couple of cars in between this one, but I'm not gonna, cover every single car I've had because it's like well over like 30 of them. But this was a 2000 Audi A4. It was a 5-speed car. I actually bought it from my cousin Joseph, and I believe I paid like $1,500, maybe $2,000 for it, somewhere around there. First thing I did, went and got some eBay 18-inch BBS replica wheels, and I threw those on the car. Got a lip for it, got a little, it was like a trunk spoiler type deal, just like a little trunk lip. But basically, just did the little things that I could aesthetically to the car. And this car was like a pain in the ass to work on. There was literally like little to no aftermarket support for the 12 valve engine. It was the 2.8 liter 12 valve. There was no aftermarket support for it. If you wanted to make any kind of power out of it, you had to build it or build a custom turbo kit for it. There was nothing that was bolt-on. And honestly, this car really wasn't my cup of tea. Like, it was cool, it was clean, it rode really smooth, had a nice sound system in it until someone had broken into it, smashed my window, and stolen everything. But it was just, it was not what I was used to. So I sold that, and then I bought our next car, which is my 1998 Honda Civic hatchback. Had a 2000 front end. I want to say we had a B16 trans in there. It started off as just a B20 car. I bought it for about $2,000. It had a B20 in it. It had a blown head gasket at the time. That's why I got it so cheap. Me and my brother did the head gasket on it. That lasted for like 4 or 5 days. And then it ended up blowing again. So what did I do? I went out and bought some fresh ass wheels for like $1,200, and then we got a VTEC head, and we did a B20 VTEC swap. I got a B16 head. It had springs, retainers, and I can't remember. There was something else. It was like semi-ported, and I want to say it had stock B16 cams. But car made really good power. I would say it made just north of 200, like 205, 210, somewhere around there. We did dyno tune it. Full exhaust, full suspension. You know, this was the first car that I had that I really had done, you know, and like extensive engine work and extensive, you know, exhaust work. Just really went into this build. I wanted it to not only be really clean, but I wanted it to be fast too. So we went, you know, all in on this. I was really proud of it. I loved this car. You know, I'd raced this car quite a bit in the streets of Mexico. But it was just a really good experience, you know, that just got me hooked into this import scene even more. But, you know, this car I was really enjoying, and I never thought I'd sell it, honestly. But then one day my brother Walter was like, hey man, you have another car that you're neglecting, which, you know, I did. I had another CRX that he had given me. That was my race car. I was going to turn it into a race car. And I was spending all my time and money on this Civic hatchback. And he said, hey man, it's time for your CRX to do something. So if you're not going to build it, you know, get rid of it. Or if you want to keep it, you got to get it out of my yard. It's got to go somewhere. And so at that point, I figured it was time for the Civic hatch to go. So that summer, I believe it was like the summer of 2018, 2019. It actually might have been before that. Might have been like 2017.
Holy shit,
but
motherfucker.
Long story short, me and my cousin, we drove out to Madras, Oregon, which was like a 5.5 hour drive away from where we lived in the Portland, Vancouver area. And I sold the car for $4,000 without the red wheels. I actually still have the red wheels. I actually still have the Type R wheels, which leads me to the CRX. So, like I had said, this was my race car. I got it for free from my brother, and the inspiration behind this car was my brother had a right-hand drive K-swapped CRX, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like, it was beautiful. It was painted. It was beautiful. It was Windsor blue, super dark, like just deep, pretty blue. And it was like that hero car. It was like the Charger from Fast and the Furious, you know, like I wanted to be just like him. His car was so cool. I wanted to have a car like his. So the CRX project had started. I went and got a full GSR swap from my brother Robert. It had like springs, retainers, and cams in it, I think. It wasn't stock, I don't believe. It had the Victor Edelbrock intake manifold. We ran it stock, we tuned it. It made, again, about 199. It was right about 200. It was like 199, 198. And I loved it. It was fun. You know, it was a lot lighter than that Civic hatch was, being, you know, it was a really light CRX that had no real interior in the back. And it was an amazing little car. It was the first car that I had really, like, stripped down to bare bolts, you know, just to the bare bones, and started from scratch. I had pulled the motor out, I had painted the engine bay, you know, I'd really done everything that I could to this car, you know, painted the valve cover, painted the intake manifold. I ended up, you know, had that bug for performance, for going fast, you know, that itch, and I ended up buying a turbo kit for the car. I pieced together like a little eBay Amusa turbo kit, or like it was like a, what was the brand? I can't remember, but it was like just a little eBay turbo kit that I'd gotten, and basically all we did was upgrade the manifold to just a little ram horn manifold. But we tuned the car on my brother's dyno. He had made roughly 410, 420 on the car, and it was fun. Like, it didn't have the most usable power band. As soon as the turbo spooled up, it just started spinning, and my suspension was honestly trash. So like, if I'm being 100% honest, it was pretty sketchy. When I would get into full boost, the car would start kind of shaking from side to side, and like, I just wanted to go, like I said, just lit the tires up, liquefied them, and it was a wild experience, to say the least. But This car, I ended up pulling the swap out of it. I put the turbo swap into a right-hand drive Integra that I had got. And actually, I had pulled the turbo off of it. Pulled the turbo kit off of it. I was going to do a fully built H22 turbo in the CRX. That's what it was. And so we pulled the GSR out, and I put it in a right-hand drive Integra that I had just traded for. I had a really pretty red CRX, and I'll post a few pictures of it. I'm not going to go over it. But I had a really pretty red CRX, and I traded the red CRX and $1,500 for the right-hand drive B20 turbo swapped Integra. And like I mentioned, the CRX got pushed to the side. She sat in my house, in my driveway, no motor, no swap. I had gotten that B20 swapped turbo right-hand drive Integra. It was black. I'll post just a quick picture of that one also right after the CRX clips. But essentially what had happened was that B20 had spun a bearing, and then I needed a motor for it, and it was my daily, so I ended up pulling the GSR out of the CRX, and I put it in the right-hand drive Integra. I took the turbo kit off. I believe I sold it to my buddy Trevor, and then the plan was H22 turbo in the CRX, and then, you know, build this right-hand drive Integra into a really, really clean, like, street car. So, well, really quick, I had found a really good deal, and I traded the right-hand drive the right-hand drive Integra with the B20 swap in it for a right-hand drive Integra with a K20 swap in it. His car needed more work. It did, and no, both cars had a J front, but his car needed more work. The only thing is he kept his carbon fiber hood, and basically, you know, so this is the black right-hand drive Integra that I traded the CRX for, and then I traded that right-hand drive black Integra for this white K-swapped right-hand drive Integra. And so you can see the first thing I did, I had my old Type R wheels and I had my old Riles, threw those on the car. And I had a blast with this car. This is when I first started my like YouTube channel and really started like attempting to create content. So I do have quite a bit of footage of this car, whether it's just, you know, going to different race events or racing people out in Mexico. It is, I would say, the car that I am most known for back home. Nowadays, you know, people know that I've got some other cool cars, but just like hanging out with all my buddies, doing hood rat shit with my friends, this is the car that I did a majority of that stuff in. Like, you know, right here I'm racing a newer at the time STI, and it was a pretty good race, pulled on them on the top end. But, you know, this car was just, it was a staple. This car really just solidified everything that I wanted to do. Like, I knew that once I had this vehicle that I wasn't gonna switch over to V8s, wasn't gonna do anything with trucks. Like, it was always gonna be Hondas of some sort, turboed, all motor, all-wheel drive. Just I wanted them to be like cool and fast. This is the last car that I'm gonna talk about in this video because I know it's already like 20 minutes long. But yeah, this car essentially had a K24 A2, and it was tuned on Hondata K-Pro version 4. My brother Walter tuned it. The car made 220 foot-pounds of torque and 220 horsepower. This was the spring of 2018. And like I said, I was just enjoying the hell out of it. It was right-hand drive, JDM front end, carbon fiber hood, carbon fiber mirrors, carbon fiber hatch, carbon fiber wing. I had a thing for carbon fiber. At one point, I'd had the 96 spec Type R wheels. I was kind of going for a Type R clone. Real Type R doors, Type R side skirts, the rear valences, Type R front lip. Like, I was going for a full 96 spec Type R clone. That was at least the goal. It was just a fun car. So what ended up happening with this car is I was getting in trouble. I had ran from the police twice in the car. I had gotten away both times. I'd never gotten locked up or anything stupid like that. Obviously, running from the police is stupid. Don't do it. But nothing had, nothing bad had come of that stupid stuff, thankfully. So I realized I was doing some stupid stuff, going down the wrong path, and I'd gotten an opportunity to come out to Oklahoma and start a career. So that's exactly what I did. I came out to Oklahoma. I started plumbing. I just got my life together. It wasn't on track. Long story short, there's no way around it. So what I did is I sold the shell, the right-hand drive shell with no K-swap components for $1,500 cash and a manual 5-speed CRV all-wheel drive. I ended up selling that CRV for about $2,500. So all in all, I sold the shell for, I guess you could say, 15 plus 25, which is 4,000. And then I kept all the K-swap stuff, the shifter, the harnesses, all of it, mounts, everything. So everything swap related I had kept, and I didn't know what I was gonna do with it at that point. I didn't have any other cars in mind, but well, that's a lie. Let me back up. Now that I'm saying it out loud, the reason I sold this Integra was to buy my brother's blue right-hand drive K20 swap CRX. Backing up, he told me he was gonna sell it. He needed to build a shop car, which was that really clean red EG hatch with the carbon doors from Ryan Fritz. And it was just time to go for that car to go, and I couldn't pass it up. It had been a staple in my automotive career. It had been motivation. It had been the thing that I had aspired to be like. So the Integra had to go because I was not going to let anybody else own that CRX but me. So I sold the Integra. I kept the swap. I put the swap in the CRX, and even though we're wrapping up this video, I will go ahead and post a quick picture of the CRX. A little bit of backstory. So the CRX actually has the dog box from La Lenta, from Humble Performance. Alex Pagan sold me that dog box for $6,800, I believe, and now it's sitting in the CRX with a good motor, and it's really just waiting for me to get home to put it back together. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was kind of a hassle to make, I'm not gonna lie. Just tracking down all the footage and editing it together was a pain in the butt. If you guys really like this video and it does well, if it gets a good response, I will definitely make another video on some of the other cool cars I've had, because like I mentioned, this isn't even, half of the cars that I've owned. And I've owned some really cool ones. I just think that these were my favorites, and these were some of the cars that I was most well known for, so I just felt like these would be some cool ones to mention. But again, if this video does really well, then I will go ahead and make another one on some of the other ones. So I really appreciate you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one.